Welcome everyone to Cerius's Leadership IQ series. If you've attended one of these events in the past, welcome back. If you're new here, we're glad that you're here. Simply put, here at Cerius, we build leadership teams for companies large and small in all industries all over the world. We're able to deliver on that promise based on the executives that we have in our network. These are the results-oriented, people-focused leaders that you want in your company. If you are one of those executives, that a value statement makes sense to you and you align with that, there's an entire ecosystem for you here at Cerius to become an even better leader. We have an executive resource page. We're going to drop the link to that in the chat box below. That gives you a number of the resources that you see on your screen here to just hone your skills, align with what you do best. That way you can do that on repeat and just really articulate what you're better at than anyone else on the planet. We also give you the opportunity on calls like this to learn from other executives in the network and to meet people because life's always done better together. If you own or run a business, there's an entire ecosystem for you that we support here at Cerius. I could talk about this for the next 22 minutes, but I'm a little biased as to how we help clients. So there's a link in the chat box for what our clients actually say. It's better if you hear it from them than it is if you hear it from me. So welcome, everybody. My name is Chris Shepard. Welcome to the call. We're glad you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about maximizing your marketing budget. To do that, we've brought in a member of our Cerius Executive Network, an expert in effectiveness and efficiency in marketing budgets. And one of the things I love most about our speaker today, and our clients do as well, is that she is a straight talker. She cuts through some of the fluff and just gets straight to the point. If your landing page is ugly, she's going to tell you, but then she's going to tell you how to fix it and how to make it great and how to make it convert. Shannon Murray-Doffo, thanks for being on the call today.
Oh, thanks for having me today, Chris. I'm honored to be here.
You bet. So Shannon, today's topic, maximizing your marketing budget. Let's just break that down a little bit, because maximizing your marketing budget doesn't mean spending the most money possible, because most clients don't have that. It also doesn't mean getting every available lead in the market, because most clients, companies couldn't handle that many leads coming at the same time. It would break their systems. What does maximizing a marketing budget really look like? What does that mean?
So as we, walk into another year, if you can believe it, this is Q4 we're in now, and we're prepping for 2024. The budgets that we have seen have really dramatically shifted into not being as much as they were in 2023 and even in 2022. So what we need to do is say, what is the most effective way for us to be able to spend this money? And really, it comes down to the industry and the niche. We need to figure out what the big goals are. At the end of the day, what are you striving to do? What do you want to do? Because having more followers and going viral isn't it, right? You need to make sure that the math puts you in a place that you're going to get, the leads that are coming in, that you're nurturing them down, and that it's actually turning into dollars in your bank account. So when we look at what we have, we need to make the first step forward, which is let's take and evaluate our people, our processes, and our technology, and make sure we're supporting those foundations so that we can get to the next level.
That's great. No, well, that's what a maximized marketing budget looks like. That's going to be an important topic now and in the future for sure. So let's break it down into its individual foundational pieces. We've been helping clients for 18 years. I know you've been helping for a similar amount of time. A lot of times the client wants to jump straight to SEO, content marketing, conversions, and landing pages, right? But there's a really fundamental piece about the customer there that I think it's important that we talk about and not skip over. So Shannon, who should we be talking to in the first place, and how do we figure that out?
Right. So we have a saying in marketing that says, if you were talking to everyone, then you were talking to no one. So if I know anything about you, Chris, I know that you like humor, right? I know that you love marketing, and I know that you love your job. And congratulations on the promotion. So
Thank you. I'm
you
really
know, there's
looking forward to it. Yeah.
Kristen's got some things to say about that. But
Right.
when we look at these things, I can really talk to you because I know these things about you. Now, if I dig just a little bit deeper, I want to know what keeps you up at night. What is it that makes you think, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is going to happen? Because I need to know what I'm solving for. Does what I offer line up with what you are worried about? Because at the end of the day, no target audience wants to know more about you. They don't care. Nobody cares about me. They don't care about you. What they care about is them. They care about what the business objectives are. And so if I can say, Chris, you know what? I can get you in front of more business owners. And not only can I do that, I can get you in front of more talent. I can make those things happen. And not only just talent who's looking, and not only business owners who are looking, but business owners who are ready to purchase. And here's the pivotal point that's going to make that happen. That level of communication is really going to get to the bottom line. It's not going to be the topical. We're going to look at nurturing the people at where they're at. We meet them where they are.
That's super helpful. Let's give some examples of that. I know we have one from a few years ago where a software company needed some help in their marketing strategy.
Yeah.
When our team was going through it with them and figuring out, like, so who are your clients? They said, oh, any business that has a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt like they had really identified their target market, businesses with computers. How much deeper should we be going than just businesses with computers? Because that's not their target market, right? It's
No.
much deeper than that.
Yeah, and it has to, I mean, you have to think about the customer journey too, right? So in technology specifically, and I have a little bit of, experience in that working for AWS and some others in cybersecurity. You've got two sets of decision makers. You've got the hands on keyboards, the people who are actually utilizing it. And then you have the people who are actually making the decisions. So that's the CEO, the CFO. And you need to know how to talk to them at a specific level. Specifically for B2B, you have to know that there's going to be multiple iterations of that conversation. So if you've thought about it and you were thoughtful in the way that you're coming to talk to these people, the hands-on keyboard, those are the developers. Those are the folks who are listening, and what they want is for their job to be easier. They don't want to deal with compliance issues, but they want to keep everyone safe, right? If you're dealing with a CFO, they're going to want to know, how expensive is it? And is this going to increase my profit margin? What does it look like for a subscription model? Is it per seat? Is it the licensing model? Is that for a group of people? What does it look like? And how expensive, the more deeper I get into this as we grow, is it going to get?
Shannon, in your experience, have you seen the costs involved when a client decides to skip over defining a target audience or an ideal customer profile and just says, here's my content, send it out? Can you give us some
Yeah.
examples of where that's went wrong?
Oh man, I just had a client, and we were able to develop the different levels for them of all the different people who were involved. One of the biggest problems is that they were going out to Fortune 500 companies sitting in the Bay Area, so like right in the middle of Silicon Valley, just ripe for experience and whatnot. But what we're seeing as this year progresses is that we have a lot of attrition with people who are in those lower level roles. So they were going out to the ones who are actually doing the doing and not really nurturing the relationship at a higher level. So these people would get laid off, or they would quit their job and move on, and the tenure that they had within the company. So they were always trying to create that not only the relationship, which was expensive, but introducing to, the newest person who was there. Where if they had just aimed a little higher, they would have held a relationship with somebody who's more likely at a decision maker level to be able to not only craft a bigger budget, right? Be the retainer, like model, and not just a one-off, but also who's somebody who's actually can make the decision right now, right? That's a huge difference. And the impact to the bottom line for them was dramatic. Once we made that shift, we hired a door opener to be able to really get in on that level, and then we could talk to them with thought leadership. We could talk to them about what was important to them, and that changed the entire dynamic.
Yeah, that's super helpful. So we're talking about the dynamics moving forward. A lot of businesses are in goal setting. A lot of
Mhm.
marketing teams are within goal setting. And if you're a small business, you're both things, right? You have business goals, you have marketing goals, you have to piece them together. How should we be thinking about our goals? Give us some examples of like some smart objectives that can really make the marketing plan more effective.
Yeah, so let's talk about smart, right? So one of the biggest things I see is that people don't get specific. They say, well, I want 100 net new customers in the next year. But the question is why? Why do you want that? What is that going to do? Have you calculated what that's going to look like? Not only in revenue, but what do you need to support that? It's going to increase your operational expenses. So when you're looking at these goals, you have to think it all the way through. It's not just, well, it would be great to be a $30 million company or a $50 million company. That's fantastic. Let's dream big. But let's also put a little bit of specificity. I can't, well, that way. We won't even work on that word.
We'll edit that out. You're totally
Thanks.
fine.
I appreciate that.
Make it specific, right?
Yes,
Make
we'll
it
get into the
specific.
specifics on what that looks like as you get bigger and bigger. So I think, the second one is measurable, right? So not to get too much into the marketing jargon, but CAC, right? That's just a terrible acronym, but it's cost per acquisition. It's cost. What does it cost you to be able to get a customer? And then the other really important one is lifetime value, right? So we all know that it costs more to go get a new customer. But what we forget, because it's not sexy, is that you have to nurture them through and that they will continue to buy if you continue to give them something. Most of the time, we have an offer and it's truncated, right? And there isn't anything else for them to do, but we want to continue to give people more of what they want. So if you have nothing left, you should be able to spin up something else that they can do that's going to give them value. So we have now achievable. Now this is the one that I love because most people are like, well, can it be done? Right? If you're going to 10x your goals, you might get crushed, but achievable doesn't mean that. It says, how are you going to do it? Let's achieve it by doing X, Y, and Z. Do you need a landing page? Do you need to make sure that the top of your funnel is actually producing? And what does that look like in the middle of the funnel? Is there a conversion rate metric? Because the math doesn't lie, right? Relevant. People say, well, is it relevant? Well, is it relevant to the big goal? So if your goal is $30 million or $50 million in 3 years, how are you going to break that down? So $50 million, let's break it down to a quarter. And then there are 2-week sprints that you can do that have measurable milestones that will get you to a little bit closer to that big goal. And then the last one is time bound, right? So you take all of the things that we've discussed. We have 200 new leads that have a CAC, which is, I hate that word, 50 to no more than $50. And we will get 200 new leads at $50 a pop in 3 months. So now you have something that's really specific. It lines up with the big goals. We can work it back into what we can do in those 2-week sprints. And then the quarter actually means something. So when you are celebrating because you either did it or didn't do it, you have to be able to say, why didn't we? Or why did we? Because nobody's asking that question. They just go, hey, did we check the box? Don't check the box. Make sure that you're looking at why, because the gaps, the trends, and the anomalies, those are the big things that you need to look at and ask the deeper level question of why this is happening.
Yeah. So Shannon, we've defined who we're talking to, right? Yeah. We've created those personas, created the messaging. We've set SMART goals, right, for our campaign. We're not just going to throw money on the internet, see if leads come in, right? Oof. We've done that process, right? Yeah. Let's say I'm a business owner. I've done those 2 steps, and I'm like, okay, I can make 100 pieces of mediocre content, or I could take this money and make a few really remarkable pieces. Mm-hmm. What direction should I think about going?
I think it depends on where you are in your life cycle. So organic social media, and this is what we're referring to right now. And I don't recommend doing very much in the way of paid advertising because it is Q4 and it's really expensive. So if you're just starting out, don't go there. But if you have and you already are there, then continue on and best of luck to you. But honestly, you need to look at everything that you're getting back. So the follows, the likes, the engagement, all of those things as data points. What is resonating with your audience? And it's not, so there's hard ROI, which is, the things that actually turn into dollars. And then there is soft ROI, but don't discount the soft ROI because that is literally what leads up to. And the biggest direction that I've seen for that is people who land on your website. So if you look at your analytics and you're getting somebody who's going directly to your website and you're like, well, it's got to be by default. It must be word of mouth. It must be a referral, or it must be something else. It's not. It's like if I were to say, hey, Chris, come over to my house. And you'd be like, awesome, I'll be there. And then I didn't give you any kind of directions. I didn't give you an invite. I didn't tell you a time. That's what you need. You need to leave breadcrumb trails. So if you're just starting out, to answer the question more succinctly, you need to be able to collect all of those data points so that you know what is good and what is resonating with and what is you need to A/B test it as well. So I would say if you know what is good and you have a benchmark for what that is, then yes, make sure that you're producing just the quality ones that is speaking to your audience. But if you don't know, then you need to test.
Yep. So you mentioned in that answer data analytics. We had a customer about a year ago, e-commerce customer. In our client discovery, they showed us their analytics and all the things that they tracked, right? So if you went to their page, they sold thousands of things an hour. You went to their page and you looked at something and you looked at similar things, but you didn't put it in the box. It popped up a 10% discount code for $5. It was completely unfair for online shopping, right? Like we are at a disadvantage with all this technology. Mm-hmm. This dashboard must have cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most of our clients don't have some big data analytics thing like that e-commerce company. What are some real tangible things everyday things that clients can do to really look at what is getting traction, what isn't getting traction, what they should double down on, and what they should really leave out moving forward?
Yeah, I think, obviously it's easier if you're doing paid advertising. There's a 1-to-1 ratio that happens there. You can see I spend X dollars and then you get return on your ad spend. Fantastic, right? But then there's other things that you can do that will help you with that. If you know how to do and there's super cheap stuff, right? So making sure you understand UTMs, go through that. So this is a great way for you to be able to track what's happening, but giving them little, like those breadcrumb trails, put a link in your bio to something that they're going to want. And don't just do one thing, make it a 3B, right? People love threes. They do. It's just how we process things. It's how we remember them. But we're like, oh my gosh, this solves my entire problem. Of course I want that. And yes, I will give you my email address. No problem. That'll be perfect. Yeah. But then take that and make sure that you've got it to track and capture within your CRM. So it goes back to the tools in your tool belt. What do you have available to you? Is your GA4 set up correctly? Do you have Hotjar set up or something similar to that will track what you have and where people are going on your website? Because I would want to know that. Do you understand the metrics on Shopify that you can look in the back end and you can see where things are coming from? If it's coming in from Pinterest and you're getting more traction from that, which I would see right now, especially for the e-com industry, versus versus your Facebook ads, because it's going to be more expensive for you to run them. Make sure you're diversifying what you're using in your marketing, because if it were your stock options, you wouldn't just pick one company and hedge your bets on it. That is a bad decision across the board.
Yeah. Speaking of bad decisions across the board, you mentioned A/B testing, right? I remember when A/B testing first came out, or I was at least first aware of it. And the company that I was within said, oh, great, our marketing team just wants us to run twice as many ads. And obviously one of them is going to be worse than the other because it's going to, and that was kind of the takeaway, right? As we have gotten better at communicating A/B testing, really what that means, kind of talk about systems in which A/B testing can be a waste, mm-hmm. and systems which A/B testing can really help you define that target market, making the right content, putting it in the right places. How do we effectively do an A/B test?
Oh my gosh, that's such a broad topic. And I love it so much because so a lot of times we have tested things, a couple of years back and we're like, oh, we have the results. We've got this. And then this mm-hmm. weird thing happened in the history of the world. We had a pandemic and it changed everything. It changed everything. It changed the number of people who were online. It changed how people digested content. It changed everything for marketing. And so I want you to think about that as in terms of you need to test and retest all the time. So if you were in the scientific mode, right, you would look at something and you would say this works up until a certain point. There is a hypothesis, and it is always a hypothesis until it becomes a theory. Sorry, I'll lecture you on scientific methodology, but that's what it is. And it doesn't ever become 100% anything because there's always things that are changing. There are always variables that are out there. So I'm a big fan of A/B testing because one, I'm a competitive person and I like to just see how things work out. But two, there's always little things that you can do along the way to be able to make something infinitely better. There's a saying that says small hinges move big doors. They do. That's exactly the case. Where I don't see A/B testing working out as well is, gosh, I'm trying to think of a good case scenario for that because I can't think of very many. To be quite frank with you, Chris, there isn't very many that you can't do testing with. If it's not, the methodology that I like to look at is headlines first. We all know that that's the biggest thing. How are the visuals, right? Then go down to the copy. Your headline should be intriguing enough that it should make me want to know more. What is it? Don't give away everything, right? And you want to test what that looks like. What about timing? What about different audiences? What else would they put in their cart? Those are things that I would like to see tested across the board. It means email headlines. It means advertising. It means your content on social media. It means events. I think that's probably the only one I wouldn't A/B test. But there's not a lot that I wouldn't A/B test.
Got it. So I think whenever I was alluding to A/B testing that maybe didn't have an ROI, is maybe whenever we're maybe testing too many things at once, right? Or we're not clear on the thing that we're testing in the A/B test, right? It's like I did two different things. This one was better, so therefore we're just going with this one, right? Yeah. Maybe give us a little more detail. I think you did on the headlines and that sort of thing. How to set up a really effective A/B test.
Yeah. So absolutely. When you're looking at too many variables, you have to think, well, what am I testing? Right. So I learned this the hard way. And I think I got yelled at way back when I was talking to our email agency. And I was like, we're just going to do these two different emails and we're going to roll them out at the same time. And they were like, no, this is a terrible idea. Because what are you solving for? Do you want to know that the headline's working? Do you want to know that the copy is working? Do you want to know that the image is working? Do you want to know, is it video versus stagnant images? I think if you go through the process, you can very clearly identify what is working versus what isn't working if you just isolate to the one thing. So at the end of the day, you need to make sure you have a result in mind, right? It's that hypothesis. I think that this will happen. If I change this one element, this is what the outcome will be. And the answer is yes or no. And it's also how much better or how much worse. So when you ask those questions and you're thoughtful about what the outcome is, you know it ahead of time, then you know exactly what you're going to be looking for.
Yeah. Oh, that's super helpful. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So we have people on the call today who have businesses less than 50 million. We'll have people on the call and watching on YouTube later that may have businesses that are 300 million or more, right? There's this constant debate between how much of the marketing team should I have in-house and how much of the expertise should I outsource, right? And I know a number of the things we talked about today, we could have done separate leadership IQ sessions on just that one thing, right? We have condensed it way down for time, right, and attention. But we've talked about a lot of things today, right? There's a lot to be done. There are entire outsourcing groups that we have here at Cerius around customer acquisition, right? Around identifying customers and ideal customer profiles. SEO is a complete other kind of thing. Help us out in this debate. What should we keep in? What should we keep out? Depends on company size, but what are some real practical outsource solutions where a company can see immediate results? Things like you and we do here at Cerius.
Sure. I think, so the bigger question here is what do I outsource versus what do I not outsource? right?
Sure.
So, and it really depends on your budget and what your needs are. So, as a blanket statement, I would say it's good for you to have, if you're going to hire a fractional CMO, then you need to have a marketing department. You need to have two VAs that sit on the other side of the world who work part-time. Does not a marketing department make? There are some amazing people who work, remotely, but you ultimately need to have some folks who are aligned with what your needs are. And it really depends on what you can get them for. So when we look at the operational costs, that's a big thing. And it depends on the state that you're in. I sit in California, right? And we have a lot of laws and taxes and all kinds of stuff. So it works better if you're 1099. And you have to just be really careful with all those things. I am not a tax expert, so just we'll put that to the side.
Yeah.
Um, at the end of the day, I think it really is, what do you need them for? What do you want them to do? And I think the more nitty gritty you can get about that, then it'll answer your question. Do you need them to be on site? Like, really, do you need them to be on site? We all went through COVID. Everybody was great. We all worked from home. But there are some people who love that. It lights them up to be social and be in a social environment, and they do better because then they can, go back and forth with somebody else. They need that. So it really depends on the individual too. The hard and fast rule is, what do you have for operational costs? And what do you need that person to do? Then I want you to understand that there are certain things that contractors do that people who are employees can't do. So contractors, like myself, are cross-trained because we have multiple different clients. So we come across problems very quickly, and then we have to resolve them. Whereas an employee will be stuck in one lane, and it may be the lane that you want them to be in. So make sure that you understand that. I love to outsource to marketing ad agencies. That's one of my favorites. SEO as well. They're rapidly evolving niches where you need to know what's going on right now. And it changes every 30 seconds because Meta can't make up its mind. So those are things that are really important for you to know, that you've got somebody on the other end who can evolve and is learning, and that is that's their niche. That's what they love to do.
Yeah. So we like to say it all the time here at Cerius. The people on our network have a very specific solution set. And if you need that solved in your company, it's best, it's cheapest, it's quicker to go get that problem solved and then pick up the next problem. And maybe it's the same person, maybe it's a different person, but an outsourced person can really speed up your time to market, right? If you hire someone in direct, it may take them 6 months to identify the target customer.
Right?
Someone who identifies the target customer all day, every day in, day out, solves this for hundreds of companies, can definitely speed things up.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of speeding up, wrapping up, we're almost out of time. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
do want to try to leave people on the call and people who watch this later on YouTube. What are three action items that business owners should immediately take to start maximizing the efficiency and effectiveness of their marketing budget?
And they should set a goal, set a realistic, smart goal. That's the first one. And then identify whether or not they've got the right people in the right seats. If you need to amend that, if you need to shift people around, people, process, technology break. They do. They will break at a certain level. So what got you from $0 to $1 million is not going to take you to 30 million. There are going to be changes that need to be shifted. That's one of the biggest ones that I see, is that people hold on to folks that are no longer going to serve them, or processes or technology. If you are running Salesforce, please do not run it with MailChimp, right? Those are two things that you cannot do together. You can, but should you, right? And then just really think about all the things that are going to come through with that. So lifetime value is something that everybody needs to know within their company. If you cannot predict that, then you are not able to see exactly what you can be getting from one individual customer. So that's a really big one. What is the cost for you to get one? Understanding your metrics and really diving into your education on marketing is a huge thing that you can do for your company. I can't tell you how many CEOs and visionaries I see who come and they don't understand what good marketing is, right? They think, well, every video should go viral. No, it shouldn't. It should not go viral because you don't want everybody. You don't want people that are going to come in to your sales team and then not be qualified just because they thought you were entertaining.
Shannon, this has been super helpful. Thank you so much for your time and your participation, both in the Cerius Network and on the call today. If you're watching this back later or you're on the call today and you feel like you need someone to help you with all the things we talked about today, Shannon or the other executives in our network like her, you can just go to CeriusExecutives.com. There's a button there that says hire an executive for my business. We build leadership teams. We solve, our people in our network have solution sets. We solve your biggest problems. Shannon, one of the best experts we have in marketing, and hopefully what we've done today has given people just some information to help them maximize their marketing budget, where they can really get that ROI, understand who they're talking to, and know what to say. Shannon, thanks so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Kristen.
You bet. Take care, everybody.